Hello, Secreteers. This is Matt again. This is kind of I wanted to do a part two of the um, what I call the San Francisco Bookends and a call from the Fairmont video I did the other day. So on this video, I'm going to eat a little bit of crow and um, tell you some things or what I think Byron is doing here. And this is all just my opinion. And what I'm going to be going off of is George and Matt's presentations. Um, the other day, I did get to see uh, the podcast that Matt and George had for questions on San Francisco, and I found it informative and entertaining, and I recommend seeing it. But there was just a couple of points in that video that I thought were just they're just missing the mark a little bit, and I wanted to kind of explain why I think that. So so when I first saw this their George's presentation, he did it kind of quick, and it was hard for me to wrap my head around everything that real quick. But then like I said, I watched the podcast, and then I went back and watched Matt's presentation that he has on YouTube. And Matt's presentation was like really, really good because it kind of shows you dot by dot where everything is and walks you through the solve. So when I first saw it, I thought it was very, very interesting, and I really liked it, but I didn't love it. And the reason I didn't love it is because it didn't answer two questions for me. And one was what our role was supposed to be, and the other one was how would you do it, right? And so, in the also in the previous video, I thought that I explained how this story and this puzzle is Pearl Harbor related, and our role will be to wake up, right? And then I was right about that part, but I was wrong about where Byron would put it, and he actually put it here. So, and I'm going to get to why I think all that here in a minute. But going back to the podcast, and this is true for like all of the puzzles. Um, this isn't a traditional like X marks the spot treasure hunt as much as people want to make it. And I kind of hate saying that on this one because this is the closest to one there is for the secret. But most of the puzzles don't work this way. Like you could say maybe Cleveland does, but I just to be honest, I don't know the story of that one. But there is a role you're supposed to play there. I just don't know what it is. But on all of the other ones, I pretty much know the role that we were meant to do. Um, so during the Sunday podcast, someone brought up and I'm apologize for not knowing who that person was to give them credit for the question and whatnot, but they brought up a point to where they thought this was Pearl Harbor related also, and I don't think that they appreciated the question, and the remark was like, "Oh, great, now we're in Hawaii now," like, and I think they're just missing the point a little bit there. I don't think Byron is playing out, having us play out historical events at historical places, but we are playing out at historical events at a place. And another example of how he does that is St. Augustine. You will have to be part of the Lewis and Clark expedition to figure that one out because that's what that story is. The first six lines in that story confirm that to me that is the Lewis and Clark expedition starting in the Missouri River. Is Byron having us go to Missouri to play that out? No, he's having us play that out in St. Augustine. But it'll be like this puzzle where it'll be something that you may not necessarily think about, but maybe these ideas that I'm going to present will help you get there, or something. So anyway, and then the other part I thought that kind of just stuck out to me in that podcast was George was like surprised that it didn't feel more magical when they figured this out and was going through the solve and everything. And I'm going to kind of show you what he missed in that regard. But as far as where Byron put it, he put it here. And and I thought, like I said, this is me eating some fancy crow at the Fairmont, but I thought that he put this like near a Pacific War related memorial, but and it is Pacific War related, but not how I originally thought. So I'll go get to it. So the also real quick, the another I want to point out another initial reason that I just didn't like this one was because of the general location, right? And in all my other solves, the location of where I think it is not random. There's a reason for it. And that was part of the problem I had with this. Like I said, I went back to my two questions like, what is our role and how would we do it? And this one was like, it seemed like if you were to do the secret today and you could be Byron and you pick Sacramento or something, just pick a random city and let's say there's Walmarts. I don't know if there's Walmarts in Sacramento or not. I assume there is. But let's say he buried it beside a Walmart. I mean, that's a pretty random thing to do, right? And it kind of like struck me that way when I first saw this solve. It's like, okay, why would he do that? You know, it just that doesn't make sense to me. But upon further reflection and coming back to this puzzle and back to these guys, the work that they did, yeah, he put it here. So, and one other thing I'll mention before I get started and tell you why I think he did is because it'll be quick. Is Matt kept trying to say in that podcast that because someone said that you have to know the Fairmont clue to get the puzzle. Um, that's I don't think that's true. Like I think he believes that, but I don't think that you actually have to do. You have to, and I think this is where Byron had a bit of a disconnect with just the way people think in general. Is that he wanted you to know your role and to know the story. Like you had to know that first. That's why he says you could figure these out in a library. Like once you know that story in detail and you know enough, and you can figure out the cities from the all the big clues and the paintings alike to know it's San Francisco, you would generally have an idea of where to go. You didn't necessarily have to see the F. Seeing the F would tell you, oh, yeah, this is the place. This is where I'm supposed to be because I know what I'm supposed to do. But that was the idea that I think Byron had. But man, it takes a lot of creative thinking to think that, right? So, in this one, like I said, we just have to be the awakened giant in this puzzle in the story of Pearl Harbor. So I figured out how he did that here. So coming once, and you can go through Matt Solve on his YouTube video. It's really, really good. But coming here, down here, once you got to here is where Matt was like, okay, there's no more verse. There's nowhere left to go. It has to be here. And he's right. More than likely, it more than likely was. But the part that they didn't get, and it's like this in all of these puzzles, there's something playful Byron wants you to do. And in this one, he wants you to be a giant. And he was using the glass elevator on the side of that building to do it. So if you're, we can all just pause a minute and break out our inner 8 year old or whatever, you could pretend you're in that glass case and you're waking up and your eye level is getting higher and higher and higher as you stand up, and by the time you stand up you're at the top of that hotel and you're a giant and you can see all the little people down here walking around and doing stuff. And that's how he turns us into a San Francisco giant in this puzzle. And like I said, he does the exact same thing for New Orleans. He turns us into a New Orleans Saint. He turned us into a Boston Patriot. Um, and you just have to know your roles in these puzzles. But yeah, that elevator was right there, and I want to say from reading about it, they stopped it in 2002. Um, and another thing, I kind of wondered, like I've seen pictures of old like elevators, and there was a shaft that they ran up and down on. And for this one, since it was on the outside, I kind of wonder if there was a big shaft that it ran up and down, which would be a giant pole too. I don't know, but I just thought that particular one was like a giant pole, just that flat. I was like, I don't know about that, but to me, that would, it could be either or. Who knows? But saying like that was your giant pole. It's like I don't know. But anyway, that was another reason I didn't just absolutely love it. But as far as like playing out the role of being the sleeping giant, if you're gonna get a wake up call, and Pearl Harbor was our wake up call, you do that at a hotel. And then if you're gonna like wake up and pretend you're waking up, you do that in a glass elevator to be a giant. And that's the magical part of this puzzle. And like I said, all of the puzzles are this way. They just missed it in Chicago and Boston. And don't get me wrong, I do not know what he was doing in Cleveland. He was playing out something there. I just don't know what it was. Um, in this one, I think that Byron, uh, and I've said this before too, I think Byron judged the complexity of these puzzles based on how much of a role you actually had to play. So in this one, all you have to do is step on an elevator and wake up, right? In New Orleans, all we had to do was kneel and become a gnome and a saint. And those two are easy. But the rest of them, you kind of got to move around a little bit to play your role. And I think he judged the complexity on that. And but this one is just a story of Pearl Harbor, and all of these are like that. They're already things that we already know. Like if you went to school anywhere from the fifth to the ninth grade, you probably know most of these. The exception is New Orleans, but if you were Catholic, you would have known that. And I don't know if that was one that Byron just wanted to, or John was. He went to Catholic school, so I don't know if that was his pet project or why they did that or chose that story, but it was a cool story, and they but the rest of them are for sure, with the exception of Cleveland, because I do not know that one. But I'm guessing it's going to be an Indian or a Cavalier or something like that. But yeah, that's what this is where he put that, and hopefully one day, I don't know how long it'll be from now. Maybe someone can come out and verify it. I don't know. I think these, they deserve a lot of credit for what they did. That was a job well done, unfinding all this. But that's it. Like I think, and like I said, the biggest disconnect was I think Byron sat back and thought, like, okay, I can play out these little fun things, use imagination, make the entire book about imagination. Like the entire book is nothing but imagination, and a little bit of imagination will be required to get to where you need to go. Right. So to the 12-year-old kid in Alaska, he expected them to like read up on Pearl Harbor and know you had to be a giant and figure out San Francisco, and then go, okay. And this is going to sound, weird, but it's like, where do I go, you know, be a giant in San Francisco? I so want to say, like, where do I go get high in San Francisco? But that would not work out good. But I think that was the idea, was you had to get a wake up call and wake up in this one, which is well done by him. But yeah, congrats again, congrats to the guys, and thank y'all for y'all's presentations. It took me here and kind of let me think a little bit on what he was doing, and I wish y'all the best. And like I said, I got to eat my fancy crow on this one because I did not think this was the initial location, even after y'all presented it, because there are just some parts of it I didn't like. But yeah, it is. So anyway, Again, hats off, and everybody have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Hey guys, one other thing I forgot to add in this is from George's and his team's 12 treasures page, but just want to show you like also a thing that we really need to think about in this one. Since you know your job as a sleeping giant, uh, you can kind of see the face here, and he's actually lying down, right? And rose is the past tense of rise, and you got an alarm clock there. So there also you can derive things that way too, instead of saying like, oh, well, that's Lincoln, so that's got to be a Lincoln Highway or something like that. You can try to like once you know the story, you can put everything together. That's just part of what John's doing too, and he's really really good at it. Once you get good at it, you can kind of see more of the stories in here. And I did not get this one correct right off the bat, but yes, this is Pearl Harbor. And anyway, I just thought I would show you all that, and just to show a different way of thinking on maybe some of these puzzles. But anyway, that's it. That's it for the bonus footage.